And welcome to another edition of Coffee with Graeme with your host, Graeme Forsyth, here on Amateur Sports TV. Today, we will be talking to Reid Sloan, the new head coach of the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 Boys AAA City Midget Team, or Midget Team, Provincial Midget. Not too sure if it's Provincial or City Midget. We're going to get into that with Reid. We're also going to talk to Reid about the other teams he's coached in his coaching career and the successes he's had with those teams, because it seems like everywhere he goes, these teams seem to have success. So we're going to bring in Reid right now, new head coach of the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 boys team. Reid, how you doing?
Oh, it's been a pretty nice day out there. The weather was great, and teaching the K-4 kids, it's always great when there's weather and you have to be outside for phys ed this year.
Yeah, great. And you told me before we went live here that you did play a round of golf before you came on the show. So I know that you are a big golfer from reading up about you. Has the game been looking good today, or was it a bit off, or was it hitting its full potential today?
It was probably just average at last round of the year, probably. So we're just trying to get a few swings in. Wasn't too worried about the score.
That's great. And you're probably a better golfer than me. Not too great at golf. I do enjoy playing, but not too great myself. But that's awesome. You got to get out and play some golf, a sport that you enjoy playing other than coaching hockey and stuff like that. But you talked about how you're a teacher. How has it been teaching through these times with COVID-19 being in effect, with all the masks and all the social distancing and all the other rules that have been implemented as well?
It's definitely different in the school. Being outside every single day for us has been a change, just more dealing with the wind. I can deal with the temperatures. That's pretty easy, but the wind makes it a little bit draining on you. Watching kids and people walk around the school in masks, with masks on. It's always obviously different, but we're getting through things and we're starting to figure things out 1 month in, and I think everyone's enjoying being back at school. It's definitely nice seeing all the kids and my fellow coworkers.
Yeah, and it's great to be back into the routine of things a bit, even though it's a bit different than what we're used to as a society. But definitely, we've adapted to it, and it seems like all the teachers that I've talked to that have been teaching, and all the kids that have gone back are in high spirits. And it's great in a time like this, because the only thing we really can do is stay positive. So in the intro, I might have screwed up. I did say city midget, but this is the provincial level of AAA you're coaching this year, correct?
Yeah, it's a provincial level team.
As provincial level. So you've coached at the provincial level before, and you've had great success at the provincial level. You said this is your third year going in as a coach into the U18 level for the provincial AAA level, but you ended up winning a league championship with the Pembina Valley Hawks in 2014-15. And what a great year for you guys that year, even though you guys didn't finish top of the standings in the regular season that season. You finished 5th place, and then you were able to have a run that year. So how excited are you to go back to a place where you've had so much success in your career before all these years later?
Yeah, I'm excited to be back in Morden, and just, I've coached a lot of these players that we're going to have on the team, and excited to see this level again. The U15 level is pretty quick. You don't get the same strength, though, and this game gets even faster, and it's really fun coaching at the U18 level. So I'm really excited to be back, and we finalized our team yesterday in Portage, and so we're getting ready to go starting tomorrow.
Awesome. And yeah, you talked to me yesterday and you said you were in Portage and you guys did play Central Plains yesterday at 1 p.m. How'd that game go? Did you guys win, or was it not the outcome you wanted and it was a loss, or what was it?
We lost to Central Plains. Not the outcome you want. You never want to lose, but we'll take it early in the season, and we just have to learn from there. We were able to make some decisions, and which are always tough. We had really hard decisions to make this year, and just kind of came down to yesterday and who played and who we thought was better yesterday in that game, and it was definitely stressful for myself, having coached some of these players the last couple of years, and even last year having to release them. That's always a tough thing.
Yeah, always a tough thing to be, to make the decision, of course, being in your shoes, but being on the other end of things, being cut, not being able to reach a goal that these players had in mind trying out for the team. But there is always that saying, there is always next year. But you talked about how it was a tough game for some of the players on the team, and it ended up being a deciding factor for them in that game getting cut. Was there a roster in mind that you had going into the game that you were thinking of rolling with, and then as the game went along, you decided to kind of change course, or was it not finalized going in?
Going into it, we had a lot of different options on the table. Different scenarios we're going through our books and on paper every single day we played, and it was a long kind of drawn out process. It felt like from September till then. It took a whole month, but no, it wasn't really set in stone. We had nothing set in stone until that day, and we made our decisions kind of throughout the game. And what we were seeing there, it was our third exhibition game playing against some competition, and you're just able to see a little bit more. And at the end of the day, you kind of got to go with what you think's going to be best and what's going to work, and can't go back from it now, right? Decision's a decision, and you can't second guess yourself.
Right. And getting to look at the tryout schedule on your website, the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 AAA website, I saw that you guys had at least 10 tryout skates throughout that whole month of September. And then you had of course, the 3 exhibition games before finalizing your team. But why the decision to go with so many tryouts in a time like this? Where was it because of the uncertainty of not being able to see these kids beforehand earlier in the year? Was it just the way you guys wanted to see as much competition as possible in camp with that number of skates?
It was definitely, we wanted to see the players as much as we could, knowing that we weren't going to be able to play 5-on-5 until October, and to get ice a different weekend with everything still up in the air. We didn't want to leave it that close, so we decided to stick with our original date, where tryouts were set from last year, and just go from there. So we had to kind of develop a tryout process that we thought would work, and allow players to stay engaged, because with this year coming up, you never know. Someone could have a little bit of a cough and they can't come to the rink, and you need guys to be able to step in and be APs for you. And we have, Pembina Valley has very highly skilled players, and the guys that we let go yesterday, definitely, they are skilled players, and if we need APs, they will be able to jump up and fit a role for us.
Yeah, and does that kind of speak about the talent that you guys had, about the competition in camp this year? I'm sure that the competition was very high this year, knowing that there was, some players weren't returning this season, so there were those spots to kind of take. But how was the competition in camp this year?
It was excellent. No, the majority guys brought it every game, and they made it tough on us. That's exactly what they did. It was not an easy decision, and the camp was intense when guys were on the ice and they were fighting for spots. You could tell that they were not sure what was going on, and what was kind of running through our heads. They knew they had to try to impress us in order to make the squad this year.
And was there a certain player that impressed you and your coaching staff this year? Was it a particular area in the game, like a group of forwards or a group of defense?
No one really stood out. We've got a bunch of guys that are gonna go and play their hearts out every single game. They're highly skilled, and if we were to say, "Oh, who's your first line?" I don't know if we have a first line. We've got a bunch of guys that we can put together and hopefully have some depth in our lineup if everyone's firing on all cylinders.
So you'd say the focus of this year's team was to kind of go with a team that's kind of scoring by committee more than relying on a top player to get things done for you guys.
I think definitely without having kind of those top end guys return, we lost a few guys to junior and, 3 returning guys from last year. That's all we have. And it is going to be a brand new team. So guys are going to have to figure out what the AAA level hockey's like at U18, and we're just going to go from there. But yeah, it's going to be scoring as a committee. That's what we're going to expect.
So only 3 returning players this season. Who out of those 3 returning players are they? Are there names that you could tell us?
We have Mitch Halati returning, and Kaiden, Dick, and Carter Hildebrand.
So those would be forwards, defensemen, or are they
1 forward and 2 defense?
1 forward and 2 defense. So 2 of those players on defense would be who would they be on the defense?
Kaiden Dick and Carter Hildebrand.
So you got Caiden Dick and Carter Hildebrand coming back on a team that, as you said, is a younger team coming into this season. How heavily relied upon are those guys going to be to kind of add some stability to the back end this season early on?
I think they'll be pretty important back there. They've just experienced it. I know Carter's gone through some injuries last year and came back late in the year, but he's ready to go this year. Showed us that he can be a leader for our team and hopefully help the guys out at the start of the year and make sure they're ready to go each game. And Kaiden brings a lot of skill, a lot of drive for the game, wants to learn, wants to get better. And we'll expect that throughout practices and games, just to lead the guys through example for sure. And they're so important because they've been there before.
Yeah, for sure. And it's always nice to, even though you don't have as much experience as you probably wanted coming into this season, it's always nice to have that little bit of experience, especially on the back end as well, because as the old saying does go, I know that you're probably familiar with this one too, Reid, is defense does win championships. But talking about the type of roster you guys decided to put together this season, you talked about how it's going to be definitely more scoring by committee, but would you say, what is the build of this year's roster? Is it more speed? Is it more size? Or is it really more of the work ethic, like the hard work ethic in this roster that's going to be so important?
I think it's going to be kind of all 3 of those. We have a mixture. We didn't want just kind of one thing. We took guys that worked extremely hard and are going to give us that effort game in, game out. They're in the roster. We have guys that are fast. And, we kept a couple guys that are extremely smart out there. Might not be as fast as other people, but they're extremely smart and can help us in different situations when we need them.
Great. And you talked about how on the defense you got 2 returning players, and then up front you only got 1 returning player. But can you speak about the strengths that you've seen on the offensive side of things so far?
Yeah, when we get going north and south, the boys seem to be a little bit more offensive. We have guys that are talented. I think they just have to figure out how to play with each other. And when we get our lines kind of solidified as to who's playing with who, they'll feel a little bit more comfortable. A few of these guys have played on my U15 teams before, and they've been on lines together. And we'll just see if we can create some of that similar chemistry and get things happening.
Yeah, and I read this about you yesterday in preparation for this interview, was that you spend a lot of time at the rink watching players develop all around, like the players' development all around the Pembina Valley region. And just going into this year where, you said that you've got some players that you've coached at the U15 level, and how important it is this year to kind of, as a coaching staff, find the pieces pieces that work with your team this year, especially with players that have, maybe never played with each other again. How do you think that your experience and watching these players around the Pembina Valley area is going to help out with not only the way you coach this team this season, but how the success is going to be on the ice for Pembina Valley this year?
We just have to make sure that we keep everyone in check and make sure that everyone's on the same page going in. Watching the high school league, you find, some diamonds in the rough here and there. And hopefully we selected the right guys and everyone's able to come together and we can, just get everything working all at once. I know, like I said, there's guys that we've coached before and that have gone to a provincial final with me before. We just want to kind of get back there. And if we can find some of that stuff that they can bring to the team, their experiences, and if there's newer people that haven't played AAA before, but have extremely hard work ethics, I think they're just going to gel and it could be a bonus for the boys this year.
Awesome. And it's definitely going to be good. And it's going to be nice to see which of these players can gel this season and how everything's going to come together for this Pembina Valley Hawks team, which you said has, not a lot of experience, but is going to be more of the scoring by committee. And you're going to be relied upon, as we've said, those things like the work ethic, like a little bit of size too, and a little bit of speed as well. So Reid, we're going to go to our first commercial break here in today's episode of Coffee with Graeme. We're going to hear from our lovely sponsors here that have decided to sponsor today's edition of Coffee with Graeme, but I'll be right back with Reid Sloan, head coach of the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 provincial AAA team here on Coffee with Graeme. Graeme Forsyth back here with Reid Sloan, head coach of the Pembina Valley U18 AAA Hawks team for this season, going into the 2020-2021 season this year. And we're talking about Reid and talking to Reid about what he expects out of this group this year and how they've kind of built their roster. We were talking about how this team is going to be built upon work ethic. They're going to be built upon strength and speed as well, and hopefully that can all come together for this team to hopefully have a successful season this year. And just looking at your resume now, Reid, just talking about the teams that you've coached, it seems like you've been able to have success basically anywhere you've gone in your hockey coaching career. Of course, you've been able to go to the Esso National Championship, and you've had a chance to win multiple league championships as well with the female team in Pembina Valley, the U18 team there. You've had a chance to take over the Pembina Valley U15 boys team as well, and you've made them a legitimate contender in that league, it seems, by looking off of these stats with 3 winning seasons, only one season under 500, and that was last year. And then you've also had a chance to coach for Team Manitoba as well. So just throughout the years, how have these experiences, these places that you've been able to coach, really shape you as a coach and how you've done things?
You have to get players. There's some good players out there. Sometimes you don't have the best players, but if they're working hard and the work ethic's there, they are going to improve, especially at the U15 level. Coaching the U18 female team with Pembina Valley as an assistant coach, like the players that we had, there hasn't been many female players come through our region again with that kind of skill. There's definitely a few, but we had a full team for 2 years that just brought it game in, game out, were willing to work, and the skill level was exceptional. Going into the U15 teams, a lot of that is just how they work at practice. What can you get them to do? We don't really do anything too extensive during games with them. We just teach them the basics and have them learn everything at practice and just try to improve. And whatever they bring at the end of the day, that's what you're left with. And everyone seems to build up to the competition, and we've been able to have success at those short-term competitions at the U15 level for provincials for sure. But no, it's been great, and the players have been unreal to work with. And I say we don't really do anything special as coaches. We put ideas in players' heads, and they're the ones that go out and compete for you.
And would you say that, of course, you had the talented players at your disposal, but obviously the systems that you guys ran, and as you said, the ideas that you put in were simple. Do you think that it's important to keep the game of hockey simple, especially nowadays, or do you think it's important to keep evolving your system as a coach? And have you been able to do that, evolving your systems as a coach as the years have gone on?
There's definitely new ideas that I bring to each and every team from the experiences that I've had in the past. You have to know your players, I guess, and what they're capable of. That's why I say keep it simple. I know the girls that we had for the U18s there, like we ran a 1-3-1, and I've tried it with other groups, and it just doesn't work for those groups. And you have to change the systems and what works for the players that you have. But I'm always wanting to learn. I want to go to professional development sessions, hear from other coaches. What are they doing? When I go to games, it's usually not watching the game. It's watching what teams are doing, the forechecks they're running, how their defensive coverage is. And it's weird. You want to go to enjoy games, but that's how I enjoy games. I don't sit there and drink 8 to 10 beer at a hockey game. I'm going there to watch and learn.
Talking about your experience with the U18 female Pembina Valley program for the females, how you were able to win multi-league championships with that team as a part of that staff. I just want to get your thoughts on how it was like to win those league titles. I know that a lot of coaches always do very good and they have very impressive teams, but they're never able to get over that hump. And I know that you're just an assistant coach at that time, but what was the experience like winning those league championships?
It's always special winning. It's a great feeling. I know when I went in, there was hurdles that the players needed to get over. They could never get past Notre Dame. And that first year of myself coaching with Jeff Andrews there, who is a great coach. I would coach with him any day. He's very intense, knows his stuff about hockey, and he had those ladies ready to go for the season, and they weren't willing to lose. They went into the season expecting to win, and that's what they did. We won league and then went to the Western Regionals in Wilcox, where haven't had much success there, and we took it to them and won game one, and there was just no stopping us at that point. And then get into the Esso Cup, it was you just had to win a couple games, and then when it came down to the finals, it was anyone's, right? The Thunder Bay was probably projected to win it, and our team just battled, and that was a pretty great experience for myself. I took a lot out of it and bring that to my teams that I coach now, the experiences that we had, and definitely brought that in 2015 to the boys and kind of those expectations and what it takes. And now, expectations are always to win, but really it's about development and how can you get these players to the next level.
You had a chance to move into coaching with the Pembina Valley U18 program as you are coaching them this year, but back in 2014-15, you were able to win that league championship. And as we mentioned before, you finished fifth place as a team that season. You were third in goals for in the league, tied for fifth most goals against allowed in the league, but you were able to find your game when it mattered the most in the playoffs, and you're able to go on a playoff run to win a championship. Could you just talk about the strengths that this team had that season when you were able to, win a league championship with Pembina Valley?
Oh, we just had a great group of boys that wanted to win. That's what it came down to. We were not in fifth place going into the second half. We went on a 10-game winning streak to finish the year off going into playoffs, and then had to go through Eastman, the Wild, and Brandon. And it was a battle, but every single line came together, and we just found scoring, and we relied heavily on a couple defense and our four defense, but especially like Puteau and Mitch Dick, like those two big bodies that ate up a lot of time back there. And we just found goals when we needed them. We got down 3-0 to Brandon in the finals, we lost the first two games and had to win 3 straight to come back. And our last 2 games were both in overtime. And it just showed the character that those guys had and the willingness to fight for everything.
And then, Coach, you were able to move on to the championship game at the Western Regionals. And even though you guys did come up short against, I think it was Dauphin that season, am I correct?
We lost to Regina.
Yeah. So you lost to Regina in the Western Regionals, but just the journey to the finals, I bet it was, even though you guys lost and the feeling always sucks coming up short, but the journey to the finals that year after making it to the championship series in league play and winning that championship and being able to make it to the finals in the Western Regionals, I'm sure that the amount of pride that not only you have, but that team had was at a pretty high point at that point.
No, exactly. Sorry, my phone's just going to die here.
Okay. Gotta save the phone, so.
Yeah, but no, we definitely, the character those boys showed and what they proved to me, I was so proud of them for that. They proved that they could win, and just being, a few goals away from winning the Western Regionals and going to TELUS, like that's very respectable. And I think they came away with a lot of experience, and they can bring that to the other teams that they were playing against.
Yeah, and obviously such a great experience to, even though you were only 1 game away from qualifying for the TELUS Cup, even though it sucked to lose that, the amount of pride, as you said, was at an all-time high after making it into the finals at the Western Regionals. After that season with the Hawks, you took the year to coach high school hockey in Morden for the Morden Thunder. So why choose high school after that season? I know that Pembina Valley didn't bring you back, but why did you choose to go to the high school route instead of going to, a community team to coach?
Yeah, it was a complicated situation there, but Lee Kowalski, after not getting asked back, I was kind of a little bit down, and Lee goes, "Hey, come coach with me high school, and being a teacher in the division, then you get a few extracurricular hours, but just knowing a lot of the boys that would be playing on that team that year, it took me a while, but I did, he convinced me and decided to step up and do that, and it was a great year. they always bugged me about being a Hawk, but they the boys are great, and we had a pretty successful year that year as well.
Yeah, for sure. And you had success there. Could you speak about the competition that was in that league with Morden?
It was great competition. We had to play Mountain in the finals, and they had a couple players that I had coached the year before. They had Jeremy Gotteris and Eli Carls. They returned to play high school for a year, and I think they went like 28-0 going into. They hadn't lost a game going into the finals, and it just showed how hard it was to win that league. And our boys stepped up when they needed to. Like, it just seems the teams that I'm involved with, the character that the boys have, they bring it when it matters. And I know Cade Kowalski, and there's a couple other guys that went on to play, even with the Pembina Valley Twisters. There's a Jordan Blatz, Tanner Weeb, all those guys that went to play there. They had success with the Twisters as well. Andrew Boucher's brother, Keen Boucher, was on that team, and they just seem to find success wherever they go. So they had it with us, and they had it growing up. They were a very highly skilled team growing up, and it was their year. I know they didn't want to lose because Morden, I think they had won it a few years in a row.
Yeah, and we got to cover one of the teams, the Mountain Mustangs, on one of our championship rewind segments. And yeah, what a great league that is, the Zone 4 high school hockey league. It's got teams like Mountain, Morden, Morris as well. So many great teams and so much great talent from that league. But we're going to take our final commercial break here on this edition of Coffee with Graeme. Just got to get the graphics off. Here we go. We zoom into the screen here, and I've been joined by Reid Sloan, head coach of the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 AAA provincial boys team for this season, the 2020-2021 season. We'll be right back. We'll hear from our lovely sponsors here before we head into the final part of this interview, where we talk to Reid about his time coaching the Pembina Valley U15 boys AAA hockey club. We'll also talk to Reid about his time with coaching with Hockey Manitoba as well. So stick with us. We're going to head to our final commercial break here in the show, and we'll be right back with Reid Sloan, head coach of the U18 Pembina Valley Hawks. And Graeme Forsyth back here on this edition of Coffee with Graeme on Amateur Sports TV. We're joined by Reid Sloan, head coach of the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 AAA provincial boys team for the 2020-2021 season. And Reid, coming back this season after a bit of time away from the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 program, as he did win a championship in 2014-15 with that team and almost made it to the TELUS Cup as well. So a great achievement for Reid that season. He also had a chance to coach with the Morden Thunder the season after that year, and he said it was a great experience. But we're going to get into his time with the Pembina Valley Hawks U15 club right now, and it was the boys club that you did coach. And just, we mentioned before, great success you had there, Reid. 3 winning seasons, only 1 season under 500. And just looking at these years, you guys were always, near the top in goals for, and you were, always one of those teams that didn't really let up many goals against compared to the other teams in the league. You were always respectable in those 2 factors of the game, in those 2 categories. But was that due to the talent pool in PV, or was it due to, the culture that you guys built up as a coaching staff, or was it a little bit of both combined to make it work in those 4 years?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Definitely talent helps. We run a pretty defensive program, with the teams that I coach. And I always think about defense first, and that's kind of what I harp on. I try to let the players be creative and do what they want in the offensive zone. You give them the basics to go off of, but in the end, they have to be creative in order to be successful in the offensive zone and score goals. And talent never hurts up there if you got goal scorers, and it shows. We had the team that was on the U18 team last year. All those players, we ended up winning rural provincials with them. So I felt bad for Coach Andrews and Coach Winslow with COVID hitting here, because they had a great chance and opportunity to go through what I did with the 2015 team and all those players as well. They had another chance to be successful and be the best in the province, and just ended up being a little bit short with how things went. But the U15s, it's just throwing a little bit of structure in there and making sure that they're working at practice and that during a game they're giving their best effort. And you can usually be successful if you're consistent.
Yeah, and you'd say consistency was another big thing for the team and for those teams in those 4 years, was that consistency.
Yeah, consistency is huge, right? And that's what we try to get out of the players every year.
Great. And could you speak about the experiences you guys had playing in tournaments? And, we know you guys were so successful in regular season in those 4 years, but playoffs as well, how you guys fared in those.
Well, the funny thing with U15s, there's no real playoffs. You just play the league and then you go to provincial tournaments. And we went to a few tournaments in Regina and didn't really fare too well there all the time, but it's a good place to showcase the skill to the WHL scouts for these boys that are wanting to get drafted and wanting to play there someday. That's really what they're looking for, and you want to get them noticed. You want to give them that experience, and we have great scouting in Manitoba as well. The group's always at games. They're always watching, asking questions, and they do a great job. And our players have done well to showcase themselves throughout the years. With provincials, they've had success. The first year we were there, we won the rural provincials and lost to the Monarchs in the best of 3 for the province. And other years we were, quarterfinals, and last year we weren't able to go up to provincials, and the year before that we didn't start the year off very well. I only myself and Bob Agnew came in November. We took the team over, and they were near the bottom. Just they were having struggles, and they ended up finishing second in the province. They lost to Eastman in the finals, and that I wasn't even there for the provincials. I showed up for the last game, but the boys and Bob Agnew and my brother stepped in, Tyler Sloan, and they took those boys, and those boys showed up and played at provincials, and he gave Eastman a game in the finals as well.
And how is that like for you, Reid, taking over a team that, you're kind of just, you made the decision to take over, but you are kind of thrown into a situation where this is a totally new group. I've never coached this group of players before. And, talking about how it takes some time to maybe getting used to these players' styles and stuff like that, and getting them to play with the best players they can to succeed and putting them in the best situations they can, all of that. But how is that taking over a team where you didn't select them, and it was, the year didn't just start, but it was pretty fresh into the year?
I almost think it's easier because you don't have to make the decisions at the start of the year, a lot less stressful. But no, there's definitely challenges. You got to get to know the boys right away. It takes a lot less time. You don't have, like, we had one practice or something, and then we went into games, and getting to know them, who can play with who, what other teams were like in the league. And it was a great group of kids, so it came very fast for us. We created relationships with them right away. We've figured them out, and they were very open with us about kind of their skill level and what they can do to be successful. And we just tried to utilize that. But it's different. You're not with them for the whole time. And I really only watched one game prior to jumping on with that team. And I was planning to take the year off to just strictly coach with Hockey Manitoba, but they asked if I'd come back, and we had a fun year. The stress level was definitely down a little bit, but we got the boys working, and they had a lot of fun. And I think they'll remember those years, or that year especially, when they grow up.
Yeah, for sure. And you hinted at Hockey Manitoba and how you were just planning to coach there for the year, but then you stepped into this. But that brings us to your time with Hockey Manitoba, and just looking at your resume, 1 year as an assistant coach for the U18 female, 1 year assistant coach U18 female at the Canada Games, and 1 year as a head coach for the U18 program for the females at the Canada Games as well. So talking about the Canada Games and how really you're playing teams from all over Canada, obviously in the Canada Games, but how is that playing these different teams? Because I know that, some of their styles of games might have been different than yours, but how is it experiencing that at such a high level of hockey?
Yeah, it's the highest level you can get, really, for other than going nationally for female hockey. And the players that you get to coach and that you get to see, the skill level. A lot of people make fun of female hockey, and yeah, they can't. They are extremely skilled players, and there's a lot of talent in the world, and they go and they prove it. It's not easy. Our pool of players, the numbers that we have to choose from, are definitely smaller than other areas like Ontario, Quebec, but Manitoba always puts up a fight. And the Canada Games is very unique, just because it's not a single sport event, and you're basically living with all other athletes, many different coaches. You get to see everyone around. You're eating with different people, and you get to go experience some different events. Like, the last time when we were in Red Deer, we watched a lot of squash and badminton. It was right across from us, and with our schedule that worked, we got to go cheer on different athletes from Manitoba in those events, and it was exciting. The other year, we watched ringette up in Prince George, and those are the memories that you really remember when you're there. If you win, you're going to remember that, and you remember some of the games and the competition. But the memories that will probably stay with you longer are being able to watch other athletes be successful and compete in sport.
Yeah, for sure. And just talking about how the memories that are created, I'm sure that there's a lot of memories created within, not only just the coaching staff, but the team as well. But is there like, how for the players that you select, the time period that you guys have, what does that look like to make the team?
Well, it depends on the years. It's always a little bit different when it's a Canada Games year. Otherwise, you usually go, there's a May camp, and it's like top 100 or something like that. I think they moved it down to top 60, or that's in March. And then in May, you have your top 40. And then you usually have camps in the summer where you're having like your 27. So you're pretty close to your roster. And then you're making cuts after that. You play the Bisons, usually start of September, end of August, and then have your team, and you're out in November. But for Canada Games, it was actually a 2-year process. When I was head coach, I was out scouting for one whole year. I'd be watching a lot of games, choosing our top players that would go to the Manitoba Games and compete. And then all the coaches went up to the Manitoba Games, and we make a selection process to get it down to 40. And then top 40 goes, and we slowly get it down. Then the Bison series, and we actually played against Team Saskatchewan some exhibition games while they were making their roster as well. And we just try to cut it down throughout that and then get ready to go usually in February for the games. But it's a long process for the Canada games.
So would you say that these players, they kind of have some time with that process to kind of be together and kind of gel, or is it a process where they, it's kind of split up where they play with each other 1 month and then they got to wait a little bit and then, other months they're playing with each other again?
It's definitely split up.
Yeah.
We do a lot of team builders when we get together. So all the girls are feeling comfortable with each other, getting to know each other. But you're going to play 1 month and then they go back to their provincial teams and their regional teams in the provincial league, and they play there, and then they come back for another weekend with us. And when we're together, we're really working on team tactics and just team builders. Like we went axe throwing. We had a big, amazing race kind of scavenger hunt that we did with them, and try to come up with some interesting events that they can participate in to get everyone kind of on the same page. Because when you're in a short-term competition like the Canada Games, everyone needs to be working at the same on the same level.
Yeah, so you'd say that's probably one of the biggest hurdles to get over is getting these players comfortable with each other, with their playing styles, and really finding that chemistry before the tournament begins in the short amount of time.
Yeah, trying to find that chemistry. There's always players that have played on the team, on their regional team together, or if they're on a prep team like Balmoral or St. Mary's, now the rink, right? If they're playing on those teams, then you might try to keep some of them together, but they don't always fit. And yeah, you're trying to find that chemistry and give them opportunities, and as many opportunities as you can to have that going into the games.
Awesome. And definitely that's one of the biggest challenges is to, bringing this group of players together to find that chemistry. And as Reid said, at the end of the day, it's all about making those memories in a time like this, because the Canada Games, going to that is something that is truly special. So thank you so much for joining us today, Reid. We wish you all the best in your season, your first season back with the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 boys provincial AAA program. When do you guys start your season exactly?
From what I know, it's October 17th.
So October 17th. Don't know the opponent that you guys are playing, or do you guys have an idea of who?
As long as nothing changes, it should be the Eastman Selects.
So October 17th against the Eastman Selects. It's the Pembina Valley Hawks U18 AAA provincial program going up against the Eastman Selects on October 17th. So for all the fans out there that want to check out some great hockey, be sure to go check these guys out, because it is high level hockey. And thank you so much for joining us today, Reid. If you ever want to, talk some hockey again, or if you guys, something comes up this season, we'll be sure to have you back on the show. But thanks so much for joining us today, and hope you have a good one out there.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Of course. Take care, Reid.
You too.
And that was Reid Sloan, head coach of the U18 Pembina Valley Hawks AAA provincial team, joining me here on this edition of Coffee with Graeme. And some exciting news on the network here before we let you guys go. Of course, we're going to do the thing that we've been doing, for the last couple episodes, for the last few episodes here on the network. We're going to be giving you guys a little cross promotion of all our great shows here on the network. So starting off with this show, Coffee with Graeme, airs every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. So if you want to check me out, watch me interview some personalities, players, coaches like Reid today, from the amateur sports scene here in North America. You should check out Coffee with Graeme every Tuesday and Thursday at 10:30 a.m. And then we got other great shows like On the Ice with Theo Tukulak Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. For pro sports content, we got Crunch Time with the Boys weekdays at 9 p.m. We got Between the Pipes with Mahith Gamaj Wednesdays, and also watch for shows like the New Prospect Show, the Rookie Show, World Softball TV, the International Hockey Academy Show, and forgot about this one that premiered last week on the network. It's the Sask Sports Show with JD Hodden. You can check that out on our Amateur Sports TV network, all across on our social medias at Amateur Sports TV on YouTube and Facebook. You can check out the episodes there, or if you want updates for when these episodes do come out, or for when any of the shows on our network, when the episodes come out for all of our shows, you can check us out on Facebook, of course, like we said before, Instagram and Twitter, all at Amateur Sports TV. And some exciting news will be for this show, Coffee with Graeme, every Thursday from the start to the end of the season. We'll be covering the MFHL 2020-21 season. So it's going to be fun to get some more eyes on the female game in Manitoba at the highest level. Of course, we're doing our season preview coverage with the Winnipeg Avers, but we'll be trying to be taking a look at every team in that league. So MFHL coverage on Coffee with Graeme will be every Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. as usual. And, we're going to add in some B-roll. We're going to try to add in some highlights when we can. And for when teams want it, we'll be trying to cover some games this year as well, broadcasting games. So it's going to be lots of fun. We're planning to have the Avers and the Ice as our two teams featured on the first edition of the MFHL coverage here on Amateur Sports TV's Coffee with Graeme. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Be sure to check out our first episode this Thursday at 10:30 a.m. But that's going to do it for me here on Coffee with Graeme. I've been your host, Graeme Forsyth, and until next time, stay safe out there. Have a good one. Remember, grab your cup of joe, sit back, enjoy the show, and until next time, I'm Graeme Forsyth signing off. Have a good one.